Tim Loughton, let's start with your education. You were educated at a comprehensive school in Lewes. How would you describe your class background?
I'm pretty working class. I mean, my family didn't own their own home until I was probably a teenager. My father was local vicar, and I went to local state primary school and then to a bog standard comprehensive school, so completely state educated. And certainly in primary school, I went to school with a lot of kids from the local council estate, which was part of a local area. So grew up with many of my friends, thought nothing of it.
And you said that your parents didn't own their home for your early years. Did you live in a council house or you rented?
Lived in a rectory. So being a son of a vicar, you see, you're given a house by the local church, but we never actually owned our own house until after Father then went into to teaching. We bought a house when I was 15, 16, something like that.
Are you a man of faith?
Well, yeah, sort of. I suppose when you've been brought up as in a rectory and your father's a vicar, there's not much alternative. But actually, I quite liked it. And my father was a sort of a bit of a political person, wasn't he? I mean, he never got involved in politics. But what he did with a congregation, in many respects, is what an MP does with a constituency, in a group of constituents. So actually, there were some parallels there. But so I'm a very bad churchgoer, but I like going to church from time to time.
Do you pray?
When I'm desperate. It's a sort of, you have it in the back of your mind. So I'm a bad Christian, I have to say. But ultimately, I'm a believer, and I was brought up that way, and I've kept it on. Having said that, none of my kids are, and my father was the most hopeless guidance for my kids. None of them got confirmed or anything like that. But this personal choice, it's up to them.
What would you be doing if you weren't now a Member of Parliament?
Either earning some money, because I was in the city, but what I really would love to be doing, I studied Mesopotamian archaeology at university.
What's that?
Well, it's a bit weird, isn't it? It's archaeology, but very old archaeology. It's basically ancient Babylon, Iraq, mostly Iraq, all around there these days. Fascinating part of ancient history. Not many people know anything about it, but for weirdos like me, just love to get involved with lots of old artefacts and dusty old things like that, which is why if I ever go to the House of Lords, I feel quite at home. So I studied that at university. There were only 2 of us doing this course. The other guy was clearly going to spend most of his life in penury, under canvas, in the desert. Instead, I went and got a job in finance in the city. But really, I'm a frustrated archaeologist, so perhaps when I retire, I shall go back, get my trowel out and go and do some serious digging, which I really love.
Interesting that you said if you weren't an archaeologist, you might go and make some money. There's a debate about MPs' pay. Most ordinary people would think actually you're paid quite a lot compared to the average wage. Would you accept that? Sure,
MPs are fairly well paid. In the broader context, we're not very well paid compared to other MPs from most other European countries or America or whatever. But I think the public perception will always be that any money that goes into politics is not money well spent. And actually, MPs are all on the make, all on the take. We're only doing it for financial interests and whatever. And I'm afraid that's an image that's been around for a long, long time. It's completely untrue. The vast majority of MPs of all parties, you know this, Gloria, go into it because they really do want to make a difference and change things. And frankly, if we're in it for the money, I'm still not earning, as an MP, what I earned in the city 25 years ago before I became an MP. So clearly it hasn't worked out very well if I was only interested financially, which I'm not. It's a privilege to be an MP. So, but many people think that it's a waste of money.
Now, part of the reason we do these interviews is to find out the person behind the politician, but also to give viewers a window into the strange workings of politics.
Very strange sometimes.
And the reason that I'm going to put this to you is because I think a lot of viewers would be surprised that when they see nasty things written about MPs and they see things like an unnamed source, that is more often than not a colleague and it happens in all parties,
Yeah.
but it is a colleague briefing a journalist against another colleague. It's commonplace, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's weird to most people. Does
Yeah.
it still, but we're all used to it if we're in politics?
And it's really, really unhelpful, and you've got to be so thick-skinned just to put it on one side. Look, I've always been interested in politics. I've always been a member of the Conservative Party, and I believe that being a Conservative Party MP, we are all on the same team. So we're all very different. There's lots of clashing egos, as there are within all organisations, but ultimately we're all on the same side. So I just get really frustrated when you have these anonymous briefings that turn out it may come from other colleagues, or it may come from number 10, or it may come from another minister, where they're sort of trying to slightly undermine other people. And it's just so unnecessary. I just find it so exasperating. I have never got involved in anything like that. I just want to get on with my job. So when I was a minister, I got on with my job. Didn't have time to stop briefing against other colleagues. I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get on with it, and I expected everybody on my side around me to sort of work together. Alas, that doesn't always happen, and I think that's a big negative in politics. It's a great shame.
So let me then remind you of a quote that was given to The Spectator. You were described in an anonymous briefing from the Department of Education as a, I quote, lazy, incompetent, narcissist, obsessed only with self-promotion. When you heard about that and you read those words, you know it's come from inside. How do you feel?
Well, it's a bit annoying, but I know who they came from, and it was just after I had made some comments on the record about certain people in government at the Department for Education with whom I clashed. And this was after I'd been sacked as Children's Minister. I mean, the fact was that I was always, when I was a Minister at the Department for Education, which is where those comments came from, I was the first one in the morning and the last one home at night. And I hope I had a pretty good reputation, so worked hard. So I knew there was no truth in those, and the amount of stuff I got on social media saying, "Hold on, that's not the Tim Loughton I know." So that very soon came to an end. But again, it was supposedly somebody on the same team. So who is that supposed to help? It doesn't help us.
Who do you think it was?
Well, I know who it was.
Oh, go on.
I'm not going to tell you. Although it was somebody who has recently been very much in the public profile and has got his comeuppance. So it was a he.
It was a he. It wasn't an elected politician?
No. But somebody close to one.
Come on. It's like Guess Who?
No. But look, I'm anything I say,
Yeah.
I put it on the record.
Yeah.
And if I've got a problem with somebody, I'll tell them. I won't try and brief it to social media or journalists or things like that. Because frankly, life's too short to be doing that sort of thing.
Why did they do that? Whoever this person is, why do you think they said that about you?
I think there's a lot of politics in it. I think after I became left government, I made a few comments saying why I think things were going wrong, and so it was a way of getting their own back, I suppose, on me. But look, this is all ancient history. Frankly, am I fazed about it? No. Has it helped anybody? No. And the person who made those comments is now no more.
Okay. Earlier this year, in March, you were named one of 5 MPs to be sanctioned by China for spreading what it calls lies and disinformation about the country. What does that sanction mean?
In practical terms, it means that the 5 of us plus 2 members of the Lords, and there's also an academic and a QC, we can't travel to China. All our assets in China have been frozen. None of us have any there. And we can't do any business things with China. So for all practical reasons, actually it doesn't affect our day-to-day lives. It does also mean, supposedly, although I've never actually had a formal notification from the Chinese government saying you cannot do this or whatever. This is just what we're told. That it also involves close family. So I'm in the doldrums with my one of my daughters who's got a friend in Hong Kong who's getting married, which means that she won't be able to go there.
Really?
Supposedly.
Oh, right.
But we haven't had that for sure. But frankly, what it does mean, it's a badge of honour. Because the reason we were sanctioned, and it's a crazy thing for the Chinese government to do, was because me, Ian Duncan Smith, Nuz Ghani, Tom Tugendhat, Neil O'Brien, had been calling out China and its abuse of human rights against the Uyghurs and the genocide, and we've been trying to get that written into legislation. Frankly, I'm surprised it took so long to get round to me, because I've chaired the all-party Tibet group for many years and have been very vocal in my criticism of China, because frankly what's been going on against the Uyghurs that now everybody knows about has been going on against the people of Tibet for more than 60 years, since the invasion of Tibet back in 1959. But it's been a huge recruiting sergeant. Now so many people have come to our aid. It's raised the whole profile of what the Chinese regime is doing against its own people in Xinjiang, in Tibet, in Hong Kong, now with the suppression of free speech and freedoms they've had for so long. So it's really been counterproductive for the Chinese government, and it's made us even more vociferous. We've now got a motion through Parliament that recognises the genocide by the Chinese. We've got a motion through Parliament that calls on the government to have a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Winter Games, which is a big thing for the Chinese next year. So frankly, it's just encouraged us. So they've picked on the wrong targets, frankly. When
will you find out if your daughter can go to the wedding?
I don't know. We'll see. We're trying to find out exactly what the status is, who it involves, what we can or can't do. But I have no ambition to go to China. I went there once. The people are great, but I mean the police state they live in is deeply, deeply scary, and the influence of China throughout the world, the tentacles they have within businesses, within campuses, even within schools in the United Kingdom, is really frightening, and it needs to be called out, and that's what we've done, and I'm proud of that.
Is the government front bench strong enough on China?
Yes, I think the government's been very supportive. I mean, the day after we were all named in those sanctions, Boris Johnson invited us all to Downing Street with the TV cameras to show absolutely the government's solidarity. We have meetings with the Foreign Office. The new Foreign Secretary, I know, is even more supportive on standing up to China as well. So, yeah, we've had a lot of support, and from beyond the UK as well.
And in terms of the diplomatic boycott of the Olympics, is that government policy?
Not yet. So we had a motion, a non-binding debate, you remember them well, in the House of Commons, and it was passed unanimously, a motion calling on the government to have a diplomatic boycott. So the sportsmen and women can still go, because they will be we don't want them to be the victims of all this. But there will be no politicians, no ministers, no members of the royal family, VIPs to go along. And that's what the Chinese want. You know, this is a great way for China to grandstand and show the world, aren't we fantastic? So we mustn't let them have that propaganda coup.
Will the government introduce?
I hope so. They've been making the right noises. They say they will make a decision. It looks as though America is going the same way. There have been big calls within the Senate in particular to boycott. So we hope the Biden administration will go the same way. And many other, the European Parliament as well has called for a diplomatic boycott. So this goes well beyond just Westminster.
Let's talk about bath time. Which is not
not often I get that from an interviewer, like Gloria.
Ever started with. So in 2017, you announced that you meditated in the bath for an hour every morning. Do you still do that?
Okay, let's just get this completely straight. So another of my strange interests in Parliament is I chair the Mindfulness group. And so far, something like 250 MPs and Lords have gone through mindfulness training. You've done it yourself. And I find it helpful, and I think it's improved the standard of debate in Parliament. And those people who've done it, I think we have a greater understanding across all the parties. So it's a good thing. We had a big conference back in 2017 with parliamentarians from around the world came to Westminster to share best practice of what we've done in London as to how other parliaments can adopt it, but also how we can use mindfulness within education. We have mindfulness schools, within prisons, within the health service, as a sort of low-level antidote on mental illness, of which is a huge, huge issue, as you know. So we had this great conference. We had this guy called John Kabat-Zinn, who's the great guru of mindfulness, who came over from the States. And I was asked to give the vote of thanks, and I got up and I said, look, the great thing about mindfulness is you can do it anytime, any place, anywhere. You know, you can do it sitting on the bus, you can do it sitting in front of the fire, or in my case, I do it in the bath. And actually, I like to spend quite a lot of time in the bath in the morning. I get up early, and sometimes I spend an hour in the bath, and I will do a bit of mindfulness, and I'll sort of get myself geared up, ready for the day and focused. I do a bit of work. When I was a minister, I often did some of my red box in the bath, and my private office always knew that I'd been through my papers because they were a bit crinkly when they came back in the box. So I don't just lie there, I use my time wisely. What I didn't know, there was somebody from the Times in the audience, so front page, following morning, MP spends an hour in the bath. And that became the story. Okay, I'm in the bath usually between 6 and 7, doing my mindfulness, doing all this other stuff, probably get out before most people have got up. I think it's a good use of my time. I think I'm quite de-stressed until I did this interview as part of that. What's the problem? And okay, actually it gave a lot of publicity for mindfulness and the problems about mental illness. So I was happy to take one for the team on the back of that, but had all the cartoons of Theresa May in her bath at the time, and everybody else in their bath. So it became a bit of a thing. So I like baths. I hate showers. If you like showers,
we're at one,
it's
actually.
up to you.
We're at one on that. But I want to know, and I didn't complete it, but I did start twice the mindfulness course in Parliament, and I do find some of those techniques helpful. What mindfulness technique do you find is the most helpful? Because there is sort of they're techniques, rituals, however you want to describe them. Which one works best for you?
Mindfulness is about just focusing on the here and now. With all the hurly-burly going on around you, and in politics, God knows there's a load of hurly-burly, just take a step back. Sit in your seat, grounded with your feet on the floor, in my case, feet against the taps, and just think about, right, where am I now? What's good in my life? What are the challenges in my life? How can we make sure there are more good things happening, and how do we combat the challenges? And ordering my day ahead, how can I get the most out of it? And how can I avoid stressing about everything? And God knows there's a lot to stress about in politics and in everything else. So you just relax, you take your breaths, and then you just order your thoughts. I just find that hugely useful, and it sets me up for the day. Some people do it before they go to bed. Fine. Yeah. Whatever floats your boat, or floats your rubber duck in my case.
Finally, you employ your wife as a part-time office manager. Some partners are on relatively big salaries. It's quite a modest salary on the parliamentary scale. You can't now, there's nothing wrong with what you do, it's completely within the rules. It's not if you had been elected now, but it's not retrospectively outlawed. Do you get why it's now outlawed to employ a family member?
Well, again, it's one of those things where we can never win. So my wife is a part-time employee, although frankly she works virtually full-time and she's paid part-time. She's the lowest paid of all my office staff, and I think the taxpayer gets huge value for money. I mean, every day we are doing something to do with constituents. So she does all my constituency surgery cases. She comes to my surgeries, takes the notes and follows all those up. And it does mean, you know, if you've got an urgent case on a Sunday, we're dealing with it on a Sunday. You know, she'll come and have a chat with me in the bath between my meditating and my crinkly papers to talk about some cases or whatever. So she is really good, and she started working for me back in 2010 when I became a minister because I just needed that extra help. I interviewed some other people, and then I said, "Are you interested in doing this job?" And she wasn't at first, but then she did, and she has been absolutely brilliant at it. We're no longer allowed to do that. But if you've got somebody, you know, we don't have to sack them, which would be a nonsense. You know, it's horses for courses. I don't employ my wife, just put her on the payroll to do nothing. She works bloody hard, and I need her to because I have a lot of constituents. I have a lot of constituency surgery cases. We have 300 or so emails a day. So everybody working in my office is there because they're working hard and they're good at it, and she's no different, and she's treated no different from everybody else.
Tim Loughton, great to listen to you and or smile and be serious and cover quite a lot. Send my best to your rubber duck.
I have got so many rubber ducks. After that all happened, I just got sent loads of rubber ducks, and I was even offered a sponsorship deal with a bath firm.
Honestly.
Yeah, I didn't take it up. It was quite nice.
Oh, that's a brilliant ending. Tim Loughton, thank you very much. It's been very
Pleasure,
interesting
Gloria.
and very entertaining too. Thank you.